Hey guys, I want to welcome everybody to the channel. We're going to do a quick recap on what exactly we do on this channel because some people are new and we've had quite a few new subscribers. We look at the symbolism that's been programmed into some of these films, commercials, music. Mostly we do films though, because a lot of people watch films as entertainment. But what we reveal is how these films are programming people into believing and following along a certain paradigm or a certain social engineering of the different agendas that they want to lay out. Now, let me give you a simple example of pre-programming that pretty much everyone can agree is happening. The global warming agenda, right? So we saw a lot of this programming happening over the decades to scare people into believing the global warming agenda. Now, that's an easy example, but we drill down and we get much more specific. And we talk about how they actually specifically show programming we drill down all the way to the base of this. And it gets so specific that it's creepy. And then that's when you realize that it's intentional. That's where you see foreshadowing and foresight. This is where you see them actually predicting everything that they're going to do before they do it. And this shows you that they are actually planning all of this, that this has all been already prepackaged, and they're just waiting to basically foist it upon us. So that's what we do on this channel. We are a Christian-based channel. We're going to go over some scriptures at the end of today's show after this decode. But it's important for us to recap this every once in a while because a lot of people are new to the channel and they simply believe that we're just cherry picking different things from different shows to try to fit some kind of narrative. But nothing could be further from the truth. Now, the show we're going to look at today is called The Passage. And this aired pre-CV19. And in January of 2019, long before there was even the first case of CV19. And what it's about is a worldwide spamdemic. Let's cue this up.
Earlier that his friend was dead.
Now, and there's this discovery, as you see here in the opening scenes of this, of a subterranean vampire. He's in a cage, and these scientists discover this vampire down there. And they contain the incident after the vampire bites one of the scientists. They contain the incident, and they imprison the bitten scientist into a cell. They observe him. They do experiments on him. Let's keep watching here. There you saw him get bitten.
Dr. Lear thought his friend was dead.
Jonas.
So this is his friend. The guy that was bitten walks out, but he's alive. Now, the side effects of being bitten by this vampire are health and vitality. The problem is the person turns into a monster, turns into a vampire, and they have the need to drink human blood, of course.
But death would have been better.
So, here's the problem. Here you see this mosquito in South America, and basically what they want you to believe is that the infection happens from the bite of the vampire, but really what we're seeing here is something that Gil Bates was talking about, infecting people with mosquitoes. Now, I believe that he is actually planning on coming up with a VC as a cure to CV19, and that he's going to put this in the mosquitoes, and then everybody will be exposed to this at a certain point. I believe that's why he's starting to talk about mosquitoes as a carrier to deliver different things, because I believe this is what he's working on. So we get like some foreshadowing of this in this film. Let's keep watching.
You're alive. You're bleeding. I am? I think we found what we're looking for. We're going to change the world.
Mr. Carter, we represent a government medical organization called
The world.
Now, this is the guy that got bitten. And so he was down in this cave. And I believe that was all about what they want us to believe, that CV-19 started from a bat or from a wet market, right? And that really happened or is going to be transmitted, or at least the VC is going to be transmitted by the mosquito. And that's why you saw the two juxtaposed to one another. And the project that they're working on, basically what they're going to do is set it up so that they can try to use the vampire's blood to cure a spamdemic that started in China and is moving across and threatening the United States. It's exactly the same scenario that we're experiencing right now. And you're going to hear some of this play out here.
You're bleeding. I am? I think we found what we're looking for. We're going to...
Now, his tooth falls out in this scene. And one of the side effects of the vampire virus is losing your teeth. We know this is a common side effect in the vampire movie lore. But now something weird is happening because people in the United Kingdom are claiming that they are having this side effect from the VC. They're actually losing their teeth. I got the ad pulled up, or this pulled up here. Oh, that's a different show we're going to do. Let's find that story on this. And what they're saying here is losing teeth, flatulence, and other bizarre reactions that Brighton's claim to have had after getting AZ's CVVC. And they're having unexplained crying fits, and of course the blood disorders. Now, this is weird. Let's do a page search on the term teeth so we can look at what's actually happening with this. It says here, Brighton's claims that AZ's CVVC has caused him to lose teeth and develop flatulence. Of course, that's gas, right? And some of these are even more common than actual medical problems. Rare blood clots that scared German regulators were reported 5 times, while 6 people reported teething, and 42 claimed crying as a side effect. Physical effects that were more closely related to medical issues but seem extremely unlikely to be linked to CVVC include excessive blinking, eyes changing color. Wow, that's like vampires as well. Their eyes change color. Growing teeth and losing teeth. So there's something weird going on here, right? Why are we getting these crossover symptoms that a vampire would experience? And of course, the blood clotting issues. And so the blood clotting is also synonymous with the zombie and vampire lore. And this is all starting to feel like a really bad movie at this point. Let's keep watching this.
To change the world.
Mr. Carter, we represent a government medical organization called Project Noah. We're on the verge of an exciting breakthrough that can improve the lives of all Americans.
Now, the project is called Project Noah. And does this all sound familiar too? In the last days, it will be like the days of Noah. What was happening in the days of Noah? Well, fallen angels mixed with mankind. And there was a bunch of vampires drinking blood. We're going to get into some of the biblical proof of that. But before we do, understand that they contain this incident. They imprison this vampire in the cell to observe him for experiments. And then they start injecting his blood into other people. People that they have promised their freedom to. Just like we are being promised our freedom to be an experiment by taking the VC. So let's keep playing this.
I just got off the phone with the CDC and the Department of Defense. The Chinese avian flu has gone from outbreak to epidemic.
A drug that makes people immune to disease, infectious diseases like AIDS, Ebola, SARS.
What does this have to do with me?
Now our intelligence has put the death toll at 15,000. It's airborne, it mutates fast, and there's no vaccine.
In exchange for commuting your execution, you have the opportunity to take part in a drug trial. You won't be the first either.
How long until that hits the US? 3 months if they can't contain it.
What's the incubation period?
So, of course, it took 3 months from it to come from China to here. You just heard her say that. And so now we're going to get into this
12
part.
hours. You get exposed at breakfast, you're dead by dinner. We're looking at a global pandemic, but the CDC think the work we're doing is our best hope for a vaccine.
He was 52 when he was infected in Bolivia 3 years ago.
Well, we haven't brought a subject safely through trial. I mean, we're nowhere near ready.
I'm aware of that.
The exposure threw his immune system into hyperdrive. But after a short period of accelerated healing, he declined into this.
So, how do we get ready?
We could try incubating in mammalian vero cells.
No, that'll take too long.
I got something. Nobody's gonna like it, though.
Yeah, well, I have a very open mind right now.
He's immune to disease, but he's also a lethal blood-sucking monster who we are all very careful not to call a vampire.
Is there a point to this recap?
It's age.
Now, back here, you heard them approach this guy and tell him that he could get his freedom because he was on death row, right? He could get his freedom by participating in this drug trial. Well, that's all of us, you guys. We got locked down. Basically, life as we know it, the free life that we once had, was over. And basically, we were told you can have your freedom if you participate in this drug trial, which was everybody up to 80% herd immunity, getting 80% of the people to take the VC, and then they'll let us out of our cages. That's exactly what's happening right now. We are in a drug trial.
The formula attacks neurons. Younger people have more neurons.
We understand your mother died. We're very sorry for your loss.
Now, this little girl right here, they basically determined that children should be more adapted to taking this, the virus from the vampire, and that at that point, they will basically progress through the experiment more easily, not have the side effects. What's happening right now? They're telling us that children are unaffected by this. Well, this is exactly what happened in this film. And this little girl right here, in real life, was born on the eve of Halloween.
We have reason to believe that she may have been exposed to a disease.
My mom died of an overdose.
The more neurons, the less.
So you heard that part. They're basically trying to combine overdose with contracting the disease. And we've seen this before. We've heard this overdose thing. Where did we hear this? Well, this was in The Kingsman, The Golden Circle. Remember Poppy she spiked the recreational drugs with the disease in her little experiment. And I'm starting to wonder if this isn't how they transmitted the AIDS back in the 80s. Wasn't that circulating around IV drug users? Well, I'm starting to wonder if this isn't the case also, that they spiked these drugs just like Poppy did in The Kingsman, spiking the recreational drugs.
Severe the decline.
How old is Anthony Carter?
He's 25. Arrives tomorrow.
We should move forward with him, but he's not young enough.
We think she was exposed to a toxin. The CDC wants you to see a specialist in Colorado.
Don't even say it.
Are you suggesting we try with a child?
Yes. Children have billions more neurons than adults. A child would come through with 0 side effects.
Mortality rate's almost 30%. First few cases have been reported in North Korea. They've closed the airports in Beijing.
You wanted the solution. This is it.
So, of course, there's this overwhelming rush to market, right? Warp speed, exactly what we're going through right now. Get all these VCs out on the market. Do whatever it takes. Take the risk, right? Was the risk worth it? For what is it? 500,000 people that probably died for other reasons? What is that? Half of 1% of the population? But what were we told in the beginning? Oh, if we don't get a hold of this, a third of Americans are going to die, you know? And it never happened. And as we can see now, a lot of people aren't even complying with this. So if this thing was so transmissible and so dangerous, wouldn't everybody be falling out from it? Guys, I've ridden on a plane like two times since it started. You'd think I would be sick, right? But I'm not. So this is fake. It's not what they're telling us it is. But why are we going along with all this? Why are we spending all this money and accepting these checks and all this?
This is terrifying.
Not as terrifying as the solution we've come up with. What's going on with the child?
So this is it? Just one dose?
This is it. Just one dose. So, of course, this is the single dose versus the 2 doses, right? And that's happening right now as well. First it was 2 doses. Now they're, talking about possibly just a single dose. You're going to hear him too also talk about a chip in the back of his neck. That's the tracking mechanism to catalog who got it and who did it. And I believe that's coming very closely in the future when people will be required to have it for travel to other countries or just living daily life, passing from state to state possibly. Because people are going to start losing their VCine cards and they're going to get tired of always having to keep track of that. And they're just going to take a chip. So the chip will say everything that they've been VC'd with, and they can wave their wrist over some kind of a thing to actually read the chip, like a chip reader, and it'll tell them exactly who got it and who didn't.
Just one dose.
And what's the chip in my neck for? Just the way you saw your career, Dr. Lear? Using human beings as lab rats? If this is on the up and up, you wouldn't be looking for prisoners to experiment on.
We're in a desperate situation, Mr. Connor. So are you.
I can't argue with that.
Now you're going to look on the door here. I think this number is, that's 329. Now 329 just so happens to be my birthday. That's the 88th day of the year. And there's a lot of stuff associated with the number 88. The fallen ones understand that the 88 is the prison. It's time and space. It's the prison that they're locked in. They can't get out of. The enemy's trying to elevate himself above the Most High. But I think it's fitting that this door has 329 on it, 88 basically, because this guy's in the prison and they won't let him out until he takes the vampire serum.
No. I could never have imagined any of this.
All right, I'm going to say this one more time. Please do not bring Tim.
God, this is fascinating.
Just take a look at the number of T and B cell receptors in there.
Yeah.
Now, of course, this is the guy that got infected, but this is a flashback before he turned into a vampire. And he's looking in through the microscope, and they're talking about how they're going to fast track this to the world and save everybody, right? And you're going to look at what he sees in the microscope, and it looks just like the image of the CV itself.
I know.
I zoomed it in so you could see it, but there it is right there, the iconic image of exactly what we're told is on every surface and around every corner. And if we don't get the VC, we are going to all perish one day. Now, it's interesting because the thumbnail to this TV show also has a giant image of the coronavirus, and you can see it as plain as day. Let's pull that up. Let's see. So here it is right here. You're going to see this large, where'd it go? TV series. And it appears to be the CV in the backdrop. Okay, let's go here. Now, why would this little girl, why would they have her in this role when she was born the day before Halloween? That's just weird. See the CV in the background here. Now, it also is the iris. So this is a portal. Remember, eyes are portals. Remember the changing eye color as one of the side effects of the VC. AstraZeneca stands for Alpha and the Omega, basically A to Z, the beginning from the end. And they're passing through a portal. Well, this is the portal probably to hell. This is the wide gate when you take this. And so the series moves along. I'm only on episode 3, but they inject this girl with the vampire serum, hoping that she won't exhibit side effects. Let's keep going with this. Here it is again. Can't make this up, you guys. Now, I know that all CVs look like this, but don't you think it's a little weird? They're not talking about a CV. They're talking about vampire stuff and an avian flu or something, not a CV.
Never seen anything like this. This is huge. And you're right, this could alter the course of Elizabeth's Alzheimer's. 6 billionaires would bankroll this today.
We just need to be careful. We want to maintain control.
Jonas, we're going to do everything right, I promise, okay? Jonas, this could be the cure for everything.
So, this guy's name is Jonas, and there's that name again. We just decoded another film about Jonas called The Giver. And there was another Jonas in another film we decoded. What is Jonas? Jonas is the portal. It's water. He's the water character in the Bible. The sign of Jonah. Rebirth.
Can we be fast enough, though?
Yeah, we will. This is amazing. Jonas, we're going to change the world. Yeah, you'll see. You got to let me do my thing where the funding is concerned.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah, you'll see.
Now, of course, these newspaper clippings all about pre-programming to get you into full fear mode. So subliminally, you saw this if you watched this series, and now when the real thing came around, or the fake thing, your mind is going to subliminally revisit and go back to this film, and immediately you're going to feel the fear. These are the things that are going to cause people to go run and get the VC, right? It's about pumping up the fear in your subliminal mind when you watch this programming.
You always got a guy.
See how they got this here on the corkboard, these articles and ads. So that you accept the fast-tracked experimental drug.
You know it's not over just because you crossed the border.
We keep chasing us, we'll just go to Amsterdam.
Tim, this timetable is insane.
Don't you see? We go with the guys who make the rules so we can break the rules.
Department of Defense?
Oh, yeah.
Are you out of your mind?
They came through with the most money by far. They see it as a way to combat infectious disease.
What are you saying?
Talking about a fast track?
You're talking about tossing ethics in the garbage.
You're talking about warp speed. That's what you're talking about.
What are you saying?
Talking about a fast track?
You're talking about tossing ethics in the garbage.
This is for you.
No, this is for you.
So that's the trailer. So what is this really about? I promised you guys we would get into the Bible today and also the book of Enoch. What is this really about? Why are we seeing vampire, zombie symptoms associated with some kind of, VC or some kind of disease? Why are we seeing that? Well, we have to ask the question, who were the first vampires. There were real vampires in history, and they're actually still running around today. They just don't talk about it. They are the fallen ones, and we have biblical evidence that this is so. Here's one of the first mentions in the book of Enoch. Let's read this. It says, "And all the others together with them took unto themselves wives, and each chose for himself one. They began to go into them to defile themselves with them, and they taught them charms and enchantments, and cutting of roots, and made them acquainted with plants. And they became pregnant, and they bore great giants, whose height was 3,000 ells, who consumed all the acquisitions of men. And when men could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against them and devoured mankind. And they began to sin against birds and beasts and reptiles and fish, and to devour one another's flesh and drink the blood." See? "Then the earth laid accusation against the lawless one." So there's the first clue that we get about drinking blood. These were the first vampires. They were the descendants of the fallen ones. Then again, in Numbers chapter 13, verse 32. Now this was the ancient Israelites. They had scouts. They sent them into the land of Canaan. And at that point, they came back to report on what they had seen. They saw a land full of giants, the same giants from the book of Enoch, right? What were those giants doing? The very same thing. Let's read. "And they brought up an evil report of the land which they had searched unto the children of Israel, saying, The land through which we have gone to search it, it is a land that eateth up the inhabitants thereof. And all the people that we saw in it were men of great stature." So they were eating each other and eating the people that they inhabited. Then we got more biblical references to these vampires. This is Genesis 9. Now, this was just after God had evened the odds for mankind by killing off most of the giants during the flood. Noah got off the ark, and God had killed these blood drinkers off. But then he told Noah and his family not to drink the blood with the life in it. This was a warning because this was a common practice. He didn't want them picking up bad habits from the fallen ones. It says here, "Every moving thing that liveth shall be meat for you." This is when God gave Noah permission to eat meat, eat animals, just like he gave us permission to eat the green herbs, basically plants and living things. Well, now he gave us permission to eat. Now, this was almost a command. People that are vegetarian only, that's fine. But when they start condemning others for eating meat, that's Antichrist. That's an Antichrist thing that you're doing because this was a command. God told Noah, "Every moving thing that liveth shall be meat for you." That's a command. Unless, of course, you can't for some reason. But here's the order. Yeah, you can eat meat, but he says, "But flesh with the life thereof, which is the blood thereof, shall ye not eat." So you're not supposed to eat the flesh with the blood in it, the live blood. And he says, "And surely your blood of your lives will require at the hand of every beast will I require it. And at the hand of man, at the hand of every man's brother will I require the life of man." So there's like an accounting that begins to take place here. So you're not allowed to just kill stuff, for nothing and kill each other for nothing. There's like an accounting of that. Now, this goes on. Because basically at this point, when we have now identified that there are many places in the Bible that talk about not eating the blood. Here's more. This is where God gave the Israelites instructions not to drink the blood. This was after the flood, hundreds or maybe even 1,000 years after the flood. This is in Deuteronomy. Only be sure not to eat the blood, because the blood is the life, and you must not eat the life with the meat. You see that? That coincides with what Noah just was instructed to do. Same instruction. Don't drink the blood with the life in it. It says pour it on the ground like water. And here are some other scriptures as well that back that up. Instead, we should write and tell them, abstain from food polluted with idols, from sexual immorality, from the meat of strangled animals, and from blood. But you must not eat meat with the lifeblood in it. That's the instruction he gave to Noah. Leviticus, you must not eat the blood of any bird or animal in your dwellings. If anyone from the house of Israel or foreigner living among them eats any blood, I will set my face against that person and cut them off from among his people. You must not eat anything with blood in it. So as you can see, the instruction is very, very clear. So now we know who the vampires are. It's the fallen ones in their bloodlines. They get power and life from drinking raw blood with life in it. So this is what we need to stay away from. So let me go back here into the chat. I'm working on a film called The Boss Man, or Boss Level. And it's all about Osiris and going through CERN in a portal, and how these vampires jump through time. You guys, when Osiris is broken up into pieces, what was that, 14 pieces, and put back together, all that meant was that he was demonically possessed. The putting back together the pieces was cloning. He got cloned, and the demon was able to possess him again. This is how demons jump through time. It's everything we've been talking about. So I'll put together that Osiris thing for Boss Level. He's actually called Osiris in the film. Let me pull this up and read just the plot here, so you can look at this. So basically, I'll give you a quick synopsis of Boss Level. So Mel Gibson's in it, Naomi Watts, and Naomi Watts plays the scientist, and she develops this CERN device that has the ability to put people in a time loop. And she puts her ex-husband in a time loop so that he could save the world, because the bad guys want to blow up the world with this device. And there's a little bit more to it than that, but I'm just giving you the cliff notes. And so her husband, she turns him into Osiris, so he can't die. Every day he wakes up, he's in a time loop. Okay, that's the demons inhabiting bodies down throughout the ages. They just keep going over and over again, right? They wake up in a time loop. And since there's nothing new under the sun, everything seems to repeat for them. There are coincidences and deja vu, because everything just repeats over and over again in these cycles. When they wake up in these new host bodies, there's all this weird synchronicity. So he's going through this time loop, and he finally gets down to the end of it after all these attempts, because they keep killing him. And he goes through what's called the Osiris spindle. We're going to cover all this later in the week, or next week actually. He goes through the Osiris spindle, which is a quantum device. It looks just like CERN. And he breaks the time loop and saves the world. Kind of a dumb movie, but it relates to everything we're talking about right now. This just released like last month. So we're going to take a look at this. But what is this spindle? Well, it's everything I was telling you guys about. Spindles is basically a yo-yo. A yo-yo is a spindle. It's the outer ring of Saturn. It's curling in on itself. It's something bound up or wound. And I begin to think about this. Osiris passing through the spindle. That's the camel passing through the eye of the needle, which God says it's almost impossible to do. A rich man passed through the eye of a needle, or getting to heaven is like a camel trying to pass through the eye of a needle. This might have to do with time and dimensions and passing through portals. Obviously, returning to heaven, we have to go through a portal. Interesting stuff, right? So we'll get into that tomorrow. I got some clips already pulled up from that. I'll probably release a trailer on it later in the day or over the weekend, and then we'll do a full show on that one next week. But this is pretty interesting. So this dovetails into everything we're talking about. Going through these portals and trying to figure out, these demons trying to figure out a way to basically clone the DNA from ancient pharaohs, re-inhabit and repossess these bodies. I think I just heard Bo Jiden talk about he had been in the Senate for 120 years. So I went back and looked at some of these old senators from the 1900s to see if he was telling the truth. Maybe he has been alive for 120 years. Hey, you guys, anything's possible with this stuff. So we'll take a look at that. Doubt if I'll find anything. But there's so much more in this story than meets the eye. This is how they maintain power and control. It's not just inbreeding. It's cloning and demon possession of these bodies, which I believe is happening. So let's go into the chat here. Thanks everybody for showing up today. And tomorrow's show, they're actually admitting that even if you get the VC, you can still get CV. And now they're saying within a year that the current VCs that are on the market are going to be ineffective. So it's exactly what we told you guys was going to happen. Back in March of last year when all this started, I said, you know what? This is going to be an endless stream of VCs every single year. You're going to have to get them. This isn't going to end in 2 weeks. Very few people believe that. They thought it was just going to be a lockdown for 2 weeks and everything was going to be great. I told you the end game was a VC. No one believed us about that. And of course, that ended up being the case. We might pull up some of those old videos because they were very prophetic about what was going to happen. And we knew it because it's all about power and control. That's all these people care about. So, someone asked about putting the shows on DVD and selling. No, we shouldn't do that. We're not here to make a bunch of money. God takes care of us. We have enough to get by, and that's all that we really should expect in service to the Most High. You know, we're not supposed to be here to make profit or anything. Or that's why you don't see a bunch of merchandise and stuff like that on this channel. We do have a PayPal link. That's for only people that are able. There's no pressure to do that. It's only people that have the ability to do it. That's why we don't sit and mention it on every single show. It's just there for people that want to. And I thank you to the people that have reached out to support this channel, and that's really awesome. They're the silent givers, and I appreciate that. But no, when you come here, it should be free. Yeah, there are some ads on the videos that you have to get through, but that actually supports this channel. So that's all you really have to do is sit through a few ads, and then that will support the channel. So don't worry about that. All right, what else do we have here? Hopefully that came through pretty clear about what's going on with these VCs, what the end game is, how some of these side effects overlap some of this vampire lore and zombie lore, just like in I Am Legend. The same thing. All right. Thanks, Stu. Thanks, everybody, for showing up today. Everyone getting the jab are getting variant strains of CV, says Sheldon. I believe that's probably true. Bo Jiden referring to his demon in its previous possession. Yeah, that's what I think, Fred. I think you're right. He said he'd been in the Senate for 120 years. People, that went right over some people's heads. They're like, oh, what does that mean? He just misspoke. No, maybe he was telling the truth. Maybe that's why he's so spun out all the time. You guys, it's hard to even cover him because he's so spun out. Well, and here's the thing. They've made it, you're not allowed to pick on him because they're saying he has a speech impediment, right? So then you automatically get shamed and you get, cancel cultured for picking on someone with special needs. Well, if he's got special needs, then why is he the president? That's the big white elephant in the room. And he's got his finger on the button to end the world. This is who we have. I mean, is anyone else understand this? Makes no sense. At least with the T-Man, there would be no incentive for him to do that because all he cares about is money. So he's not going to ruin his opportunities to make money. But with Bo Jiden, that guy could easily just wake up one day and go, you know what? Let's wipe the slate clean. Or he could just do it by accident. I know there are safeguards in place to where that could never happen. But you get my point. You get my point. And we're all standing around acting like this is normal. That the man in the presidency in the seat is this is just normal. And then when you pull up the news stories, and it's just constant brainwashing to try to get you to believe that he was elected and that we're all supposed to just accept this and that this is all normal. There's something weird going on here. He's either being used as a puppet or this guy has some high demonic power and it's just not coming through his host body in the way that they want it to, but maybe he has some power that we don't know about. Scary Joe. Exactly. So we're living in weird times, you guys. Weird times. And the chatter is increasing. The chatter is intensifying about what they're going to do with this VC and what life is going to be like. I have no idea what life's going to be like this time next year. Will all children be forced to take this before they go to school? Will we all be forced to take this before we travel from state to state or get on an airplane or go to Europe? I have no idea what they're going to do. It's any man's guess at this point. Will there be chips involved? Probably. So we are on the precipice of something huge. And I guess we're going to have to wait and see what's going on. Like, the cool thing about watching Bo Jiden is anything could come out of his mouth and we'll be on it because just like this, I've been in the Senate for 120 years. Anything could slip out of his mouth. And remember the Dark Winter comment? That ended up being true. It's like the demon's peeking out from inside of him. And I also noticed, you guys notice how he's like a wild chihuahua or something sometimes. When he starts talking, he starts yelling, getting really angry. That's like an old senile man. And then he goes back to normal, like he like realizes he's yelling and getting all crazy. I'm just going, wow, this is crazy. So that's what's going on. All right. They will require in school, says Kim. Probably. It's coming. Here in New England, they just decided that they're going to make it mandatory for school children. Now, there is a lot of school children are grandfathered in if they're younger than 7th grade, but now it is now a requirement. There is no more religious exemption. So it's here. And part of the VC list is going to be CV19. So now here we are. So what are you going to do as a parent if you live in New England, if you have a child younger than 7th grade? What are you going to do now? Are you going to stay here and give in? After everything we've learned about this, about what's coming? That's the question. So, what else do we have? Hit the thumbs up button if you can today. And we'll be back on here tomorrow. I love you guys. Be saved if you haven't already. Realize that everybody who runs this world, they're all corrupt. That's how they got to the position they're in. The definition of corruption is power, pretty much. And the prerequisite to get that power is that you've already been compromised. They're not going to let anyone up there that they can't control. So just remember that when you start believing in a man, any man, left or right, Bo Jiden or Donald Dump. It doesn't matter. They're all one and the same. All right, you guys have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow. Much love.